In a small town nestled between rolling hills, where everyone knew each other's name, a peculiar relationship blossomed in the shadows. Mark Thompson, a 19-year-old with big dreams and a naive heart, found himself involved with Margaret Wilkins, a 50-year-old divorcee who had a reputation for her vivacious spirit. While the townsfolk whispered about their unconventional pairing, the two seemed to thrive in their secretive bubble, exchanging stolen moments at local cafes and parks. It all began one autumn day when Mark, an aspiring artist, visited a local art exhibit. Margaret, an art enthusiast, was captivated by his youthful vision and creativity. Their conversations quickly turned into romantic outings, and what started as an innocent friendship blossomed into an intense relationship. For Mark, Margaret represented a world beyond his own, a mentor, a friend, a lover, all wrapped into one. Yet, for Margaret, Mark was a return to her youth, a chance to feel alive again. As their relationship progressed, the age gap began to weigh heavily on both. Mark found himself in a whirlwind of emotions, oscillating between affection and insecurity. His friends and family were baffled, often questioning his choices and warning him about the potential emotional fallout. Margaret, too, faced scrutiny from her peers who viewed her relationship with the young artist as inappropriate. They struggled under the pressure of societal judgment, but the emotional bond they had built kept them together. However, cracks began to show. Mark wanted more than what was being offered. He dreamed of a future filled with love, stability, and a family. Margaret, still haunted by her past and wary of commitment, was reluctant to take their bond to that next level. The more Mark expressed his feelings and desires, the more Margaret pulled away, igniting a conflict that spiraled out of control. As fall turned to winter, things worsened. Mark's frustration and despair grew, feeding a dark obsession. He began to believe that if he couldn't have Margaret completely, he could at least eliminate the pain of heartache. One evening, after a particularly heated argument where Margaret dismissed his feelings yet again, Mark left her apartment feeling desolate. Alone in his room, he contemplated his next move, wrestling with his turbulent emotions. He stumbled upon an online forum discussing toxic relationships and various extremes of love. The dangerous rhetoric began to seep into his mind. One post suggested that sometimes extreme actions were necessary to rid oneself of pain. A chilling thought crept into Mark's consciousness. What if he could free himself from the agony of rejection? In a fit of rage and desperation, Mark returned to Margaret's apartment that fateful night. He intended to confront her one last time, to perhaps make her see the depths of his devotion. But the conversation quickly shifted from passionate pleas to bitter accusations. With each word, Mark felt his heart fracture further, and in a moment of sheer madness, he could no longer contain his emotions. In a reckless act of violence, he took a knife from her kitchen and, in a blur of anger and heartbreak, he stabbed her. The reality of what he had done crashed down on him like a tidal wave. Margaret lay there, lifeless, and Mark fled the scene, his mind racing, his heartbeat drumming a frantic rhythm of regret and horror. The news of Margaret's death shook the community. Friends and family were devastated, piecing together the tragic narrative of an unconventional love story turned cold-blooded murder. The town was engulfed in a sense of disbelief. How could love twist into such monstrosity? Meanwhile, Mark had gone into hiding. His mind swirled with guilt and confusion, but he knew he could not escape the consequences. Several days later, feeling the weight of his actions suffocating him, he turned himself in. In an emotional confession, he described their relationship, his feelings of betrayal, and how love, twisted by age and circumstance, had led to an irreversible tragedy. The trial captivated the nation, a case that delved deep into the complexities of love, age, obsession, and mental health. Experts debated whether Mark's actions were premeditated or a tragic consequence of his emotional turmoil. The defense argued he was a troubled young man overcome with heartache, while the prosecution painted him as a cold murderer who couldn't cope with rejection. As the trial unfolded, Mark's story ignited conversations about mental health awareness, the dynamics of relationships across generations, and the often unseen battles that rage within those caught in tumultuous love. Ultimately, Mark was sentenced to years in prison, a life irrevocably altered by a moment of rage and heartbreak. Years later, as he reflected on his life in prison, Mark understood the irrevocable damage caused by mismanaged emotions and undiscussed mental health issues. In his art, he began to channel the pain of his past, hoping to use his experiences as a cautionary tale, a reminder to others navigating the intricate web of love, obsession, and emotional fallout. The tragic story of Mark and Margaret serves as a haunting reminder that the lines between love and obsession can often blur, leading to devastating consequences that echo far beyond the lives of those directly involved.